You're listening to The Roofr Report. Tune in for exclusive interviews with roofing experts and insights from leaders who walk the walk. Grow with Roofr, and your host, Pete McKendrick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Roofr Report. I am your host, Pete McKendrick, and we are back with another Roofer of the Month, our new series for this year. I'm really excited to continue this series and get to showcase some of our users and some of the great roofers in the industry. And today we are joined by Maven's Amanda Veinott. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, how are you, everyone?
Good. So, what we thought with Mother's Day coming up in the month of May, what better than to have a mother and business owner on the as the Roofer of the Month. So congrats on being our May Roofer of the Month. And we're excited to have you on and kind of dive a little bit into your business.
Absolutely. Super excited. Lots to talk about when it comes to mom-owned businesses, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'll give you a quick minute just to introduce yourself for those that may not know you and dive a little bit into Maven and just kind of give us what you guys have going on, how long you've been in business, what do you guys specialize in, and things like that, where you guys are at in the growth stage of the business, and just kind of give everybody a little bit of background on Maven and how you guys got to where you are today.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Veinott. I'm the owner and founder of Maven Roofing and Exteriors in New Jersey. We are 100% woman-owned. I founded the company last year in March of 2023, and we celebrated our birthday not even a month ago at this point. We're not even a year into our first sale yet. So our first sale was at the very end of April, so we're approaching that shortly. Part of the reason being why we didn't sell in March is because we weren't legally able to, because in New Jersey, you need your license and insurance and all of that fun stuff. So it took about 6 weeks to get up and running. Right now, we are operating primarily in the northern New Jersey market. We are 100% retail. We very rarely get hit by storms here, and if we do, it's wind. So we are seeing more and more wind claims, but it's people who really just still want to stick with a retail model in terms of the homeowners. So we are very quickly growing in terms of our production output, our sales volume, and overall revenue. We're going to double our business that we did last year. We did about 1.5 in our first 7 months of actual operations, which is crazy. So we should hit about 3 million this year. And I would say 95% of that is really focused on roofing and gutters. We are no longer doing siding and windows. That was extremely headache inducing to me. And we are now partnering with another very well-known roofing contractor to give them our siding and window estimates, believe it or not. So yeah, it's been an insane year. I have a phenomenal COO who is my right-hand man. His name's TJ, and he runs all of our production and operations. I've got a wonderful admin who is a former client of ours turned into this unicorn of an admin. She's a local mom as well. And we've got 2 part-time repair technicians as W-2s, and then we have our subcontracted installers, whether that's our roofers, our gutter installers, our carpenters for our deck builds. And yeah, we're just growing alongside Roofr too. I mean, you guys have been absolutely fundamental to our growth over this last year. I couldn't have done it without you. I wholeheartedly mean that. I'm not even just saying that.
No, and I think you touched on some great things right out of the box. I think so many times when companies start, right, it's so easy. Like we did it. I was a general contractor, and it's so easy to just say, when a customer says, hey, while you guys are here, can you look at this? Right. And you're less like, yeah, you know what? We could do that. Right. And let's take that on. And next thing, you're a window installer or you're a siding company. Right. And it's like, we really didn't want to do that, but now here we are doing it and trying to figure that out as well. So I think that's a common mistake that a lot of companies, it's because it's easy to say yes, right? You're like, hey, it's more work. Let's take it. Right. So I think it is tough to kind of stay the course and just say, hey, we're going to be roofers. Let's just be roofers and let's just be the best roofers that we can. Next thing, you're practically a GC.
Yeah, no, definitely don't want to go down that GC route again. And it was our first and only siding job that I realized very quickly I don't want to do that. When I was selling for another contractor here in North Jersey from 2020 to very early 2023, the bane of my existence as a salesperson was siding. So I'm not surprised that I'm here now a year later saying, yep, nope, no more siding, no more windows, and really just focusing on our core competencies, which are roofing, gutters, and decks. And I have to sort of give credit where credit is due, because TJ, our COO and our production leader, he has been very beneficial to me as an entrepreneur that likes to follow the bright, shiny objects, really reminding me that we don't need to chase that business because we genuinely don't need it. And we can be much more particular about the jobs that we're taking. And I understand not everybody can be as particular as us so quickly. We definitely have built a brand and a reputation that allows us to be a little bit more choosy now. And he constantly reminds me, like, that's not really in our wheelhouse. Yeah, we can do that fascia wrapping, or yeah, we could do that rake replacement that has been happening a lot lately because of all those windstorms, but we don't need to. And it's okay to say no.
Yeah. It's interesting too that you mentioned that you mentioned that Roofr has been instrumental in what you guys have been able to accomplish. And I think that that's something else that comes up a lot in these conversations is, okay, I'm starting a roofing business. When do I implement tech? How much do I implement? What do I look for specifically? So what made you make the decision to go with tech straight out of the box from day one, essentially?
I went with tech before I even started my company. I started researching tech platforms before I even filed for my LLC, because in that 2.5 year period of time where I was selling for someone else, I know exactly where my roadblocks were, where my bottlenecks were, what was keeping me from turning around estimates and proposals quickly, which ultimately speed to lead, speed to estimate, speed to follow-ups, like all of that, the speed is what makes you win. And I saw what worked, I saw what didn't work during those 2.5 years. So when I knew that I was starting Maven, the first thing I did was I started interviewing tech companies. And I think there was 3 or 4 that I was interviewing and going through demos and everything with. And my number one pitfall as a salesperson, even though I sold almost $10 million in 2.5 years with a other company, my number one pitfall was speed to proposals. So when I was interviewing tech companies, that was the number one thing I needed to solve for. And Roofr's platform blew everyone else out of the water for the value I got for the money I was spending. And it, at the time, a year ago, I mean, it's crazy what you guys have done in a year, but at the time, you didn't have a lot of fancy things and bells and whistles, and that's exactly what I needed. I didn't need the 15 other functionalities that other platforms were offering. I thought it was a waste of money at that startup stage, and it truly was. So I needed the proposal tool, the catalog feature where I was able to go in and create all of my own catalog items and put in the data from my suppliers in terms of pricing and measurements, and then click a button, order a measurement report, write the proposal in under 10 minutes and get it out the door, honestly was part of the reason why we sold so much so quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I often get asked, like, what if you had to pick just what software you would use out of the box, like on day one, what would it be? And I always say a proposal tool, right? I think it's at that stage, it's more important than your CRM, right? Because you potentially don't have the volume of jobs at that point to need a full-blown CRM. Like you said, you don't need the 15 other things that come along with that proposal tool. Right. You just need to be able to compete at the proposal level. And yeah, so it's, again, here's another reason why you want to do that. You can see that how successful it's been for you guys and how quickly it's allowed you guys to grow.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, in the last year, we've iterated our proposals a ton. So what our proposals look like now are nothing what our proposals looked like a year ago. I went from super bare bones to over explaining everything and realizing that I was losing people. And now I'm cutting them back and I'm reorganizing headings and items, and I'm putting in descriptors into the actual proposal itself and not just in the pages that you can add. But I also just deleted a whole bunch of information too, because the feedback I was getting from customers was, I wish that it was just a little more concise. So the phenomenal thing is that I can go and make those changes in real time. And any of the templates that I have created, if I change it at the catalog level, it edits in those templates, which, I mean, that's genius. You don't have to go in and make 25 of the same changes over and over again.
Yeah, and the thing that I like the most about it, what it allowed like you guys to do, is to make those iterations, right, and improve on your proposal. And the software was able to grow with you guys. As you guys have grown and refined your process, the software is just able to manipulate itself and be flexible enough that you guys can change it the way you need to. So that's always been something that we've strived to do here at Roofr, and make a software, like we always say, something that a roofer can come and just grow with us. And so glad that it's working like that for you. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about being a woman-owned business, right? Like obviously this is I would say 10 years ago, this was a predominantly male, and it still is to some aspect, a male-dominated field, but we see more and more successful women running businesses in the roofing industry. And I think that it speaks highly to the way that the whole industry is kind of changing. The roofer and the roofing business owner, and the way we were looked at, the way the roofing industry was looked at 5-10 years ago in comparison to today, is a lot different, right? There's a level of professionalism here now that was never here before. And I think that folks like yourself have definitely helped that image for us. And I think having women-owned businesses has definitely changed the view of contractors, right, in general, and the kind of the stigma that they've had. So what are some of the challenges that you run into still to this day, being a woman-owned business? I'm sure you still run up against roadblocks. What are some of the challenges that you hit being a woman-owned roofing company?
If we're talking specifically my experience within roofing, so within the roofing industry, the roadblocks are more on the homeowner level than they are anywhere else. Yeah. I've been treated nothing but professionally and kindly, and all the other positive adjectives that we can throw along into this statement by any other professional in the industry. So at the industry level, who cares? Like, honestly, my experience is, who cares that I'm a woman? Do I get looked at when I walk into a room with 100 men and I'm the only woman? Yeah, I mean, it's a little awkward, but once people get over the fact that I'm a woman, it's like, all right, well, she's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm here because I earned it. But at the same time, I don't want to dismiss the experience that other women have had, especially closer to that 10-year ago period of time, because back then it was a whole different ballgame, honestly. A lot of women, a lot of my peers and my colleagues have experienced some really terrible things in terms of harassment and being questioned about their knowledge and their skills at the industry level. But that has not been my experience. I am very fortunate to not have experienced that. On the flip side, on the homeowner side, almost every single day, they look at me like I have 3 heads, and they're wondering why I'm the one that's showing up. And I honestly thought it was going to be easier to sell a roof as an owner than it would have been as a salesperson. But I feel like I struggle more selling to homeowners as the owner of the company than I did when I was selling for somebody else. I haven't really sat down and analyzed the psychology behind that, but what I can tell you is, TJ, if he went to sell a roof and if I went to sell a roof and we met with the same people, he would probably outsell me time and time again. I don't know why, but it's happening. And it's something I'm struggling with as a former high performing salesperson who was basically neck and neck with the top person in the company. It hurts my ego a little bit, but I've also noticed that going into our second year, my confidence has changed, and I've started to sort of shift my storytelling, because I was trying to overcompensate when people were questioning me, when homeowners were questioning me with my product knowledge. Like, I default to people questioning me as if they're wondering if I know what I'm talking about. So in order to combat what I thought was their reasoning for questioning me, I just started spewing all of my product knowledge. Now, instead of doing that, I shift the narrative to the fact that I grew up in a blue collar family. My aunt was one of the only female landscaping and hardscaping owners in the state of New Jersey back in the 1970s and 1980s. And she worked on these super high-end homes in Rumson, New Jersey and Red Bank, New Jersey. And she was a sought-after contractor. And then on the other side of my family, I grew up with an uncle who actually builds all of our decks now. He's had his own construction company, high-end interiors, bathrooms, kitchens, windows, all that carpentry work for 41 years. So I was surrounded by entrepreneurs and business owners in the construction space my entire life. And for some reason, I forgot about that until recently. So now I started shifting my story and telling homeowners, this isn't my first 5-year foray into the construction industry. I actually grew up around construction. And yeah, I went to college and I went into HR consulting and I did the corporate thing because that's what I thought I was supposed to do because my parents wanted us to go to college and they didn't want us swinging hammers. But joke's on them, I now own a construction company, right? So it's just one of those things where I think I'm always going to get looked at as, oh, are you the wife of the owner or is this a family business? And I just have to start laughing and shrug it off and not dump all of my product knowledge at people. So yeah, I mean, that was a really long-winded way of saying on the industry side, no issues whatsoever being a woman. On the homeowner side, every single day I struggle with people wondering if I really own the business.
That's interesting. I think that I could see homeowners operating under an assumption, right? Because it's just what they're used to, right? I do think it's interesting on the industry side, though, because I think 5 or 10 years ago, what I noticed, I've been on the tech side of this now 6 years, and just the companies that I've worked with, before, if you tried to put two roofers that were in a competing market in the same room, it probably would have ended in a fist fight, right? And no one wanted to talk to anyone, right? Like you hated your competition, and that is much, much different now today. We do a lot better job of complementing each other and working together and bouncing ideas off of each other and networking. So I think that that's definitely helped a situation that you talked about there where like some of your colleagues were meeting a lot of resistance, 5 or 10 years ago. Because I think that was just the industry in general. I think it probably was worse for them, but it definitely was the industry in general. We just didn't get along, right? Like no one really wanted to work with anyone else. So yeah, so it's interesting how that's changed, I think, as a whole. And it definitely helped our entire industry to excel a little bit and improve the way our outward view to the homeowners and things like that. So what would you think, maybe an interesting question here for you, in your first year now of business, what would you see as probably like your biggest, I don't want to say failure, but maybe like your biggest learning lesson that you had in the first year of business?
Ooh, I have a lot. Hire the right people, don't hire the wrong people. I would say that's number one. Don't hire out of desperation, hire out of calculation. So you have to make calculated decisions when it comes to the people that you bring on, and don't hire somebody just because you need a warm body to fill a role. That results in really bad outcomes. So that's probably number one. Number two is cash flow is king. I don't care who says what about all the other things that matter, but it's not a failure. It's a success. But some of my most sleepless nights over the last year have come from, okay, I know this check is clearing within the next 3 days. I know I have these 15 bills that have to get paid. It's this juggling act. So what could have been a failure of not having enough cash coming in at the right times turned into a huge success, where I can actually say now that we have zero concern or negative energy floating around our business about financials. And sort of the two of those things put together come to my third thing that I think is sort of the biggest lesson that I learned. Have the right bookkeeping company from very early on. If you don't want to do your books, if you don't have the wherewithal or the knowledge, hire a bookkeeping company and an accountant that can help you. Because when you are looking at your checking account and you're like, all right, I know there's revenue coming in, but where's all the other money? They can very quickly run reports. They can run accounts receivable reports, accounts payable reports. They can look at what has been your most common monthly expenditures on an ongoing basis. If you bring on somebody who you're paying $100,000 a year, you as the business owner shouldn't be wondering how you're going to afford them. It should be your financial professionals, your bookkeeper, your accountant, acting as your coach and your consultant about, okay, you want to pay this person this amount. Well, this is what it's going to take to do that. Those types of conversations are so much easier if your books are kept properly. I learned the hard way very quickly that the right bookkeeper makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I would say coming from the CRM background that I came from, seeing into getting a glimpse into a lot of businesses, I would say that it's probably one of the largest areas of opportunity is managing the money and understanding it, understanding our profit margin and our profit and loss and what jobs are really costing us and what money are we actually really making. I think a lot of that stuff gets overlooked or just misunderstood. So that's great advice. What do you think has been, do you enjoy being a business owner?
Absolutely, 1,000%. I make the worst employee ever.
Good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I asked a question one time of Ty Backer, and I'll ask it of you. Do you think being an entrepreneur is something that you can learn to do, or do you think it's something that you're born to do?
You can learn to be a business owner. You can't learn how to be an entrepreneur.
I agree.
I think it is so fundamental in terms of personality that you can train yourself to run a really good business, to operate a business that an entrepreneur has founded. But at the end of the day, I don't know. So I think they're two very different things. I think that you can be a business owner and you can be an entrepreneur. Those two things can happen simultaneously. I also think you can be an entrepreneur without necessarily being a business owner, meaning that you can start a really amazing company, but you can also run that amazing company into the ground very quickly if you don't know how to be a good business owner. And then you could be a business owner that has absolutely no entrepreneurial spirit whatsoever. So there's sort of multiple ways to cut that cake. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the personality of an entrepreneur, you're probably not going to found a company.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think that it's something that I think it's in your nature, right? To take that risk and to be able to handle that risk. Like I think, like you said, I think you can run an incredible business, but if you don't have it in you to be that person to go for it, I don't think you'll ever do it. Or you'll potentially fail if you try.
And then if you start looking at the visionary versus integrator roles with traction and all of that, I think there's something like 5%, maybe it's even less, of true visionaries in the world, which are really those entrepreneurial minded individuals. There's a whole bunch of people out there that sort of balance both of those roles pretty well. But at the end of the day, there's a reason that there are so few companies in this world that have billions of dollars in capital and these conglomerate organizations. It's because one individual had the guts to say, yeah, this is possible, and kept pushing and falling and failing and pushing and falling and failing forward. And that takes a very particular type of person to not let those setbacks and those failures stop you from knowing that you're capable of doing something greater than you're currently doing. And it also takes a special type of person to know what they're really good at and what they are really bad at, and have the self-awareness and the self-confidence that they need a right-hand person. And I will go to my grave to arguing with people about hiring your right-hand person before you can afford them. Because if you hire them as you just start out, and it's truly the right person, it has to be the right person, they are going to allow you to get so much farther faster in your business than you would ever be able to accomplish alone. And that's directed at the entrepreneur, somebody who is truly a visionary that also lacks the skills of an integrator. You can do visionary stuff and integrator stuff and have a mediocre start, but if you truly want to grow your business quickly and you're a visionary, you need a right-hand person.
I love it. How has it been in the first year of business being a mom and a business owner?
Hell. It has been absolute hell, honestly. I'm still married, so there's that.
Right?
My kids still love me. They actually tell me more now than last year that they love me. I mean, it could just be a function that they're a year older, so. But anyway, truthfully, it's been hell. And the reason why it's been hell is because as a working parent, I just want to take the mother-father thing off the table. Being a working parent is really flippin' tough. Trying to juggle the demands of any professional workload and the demands of parenthood is extremely hard. And we could do a whole podcast on why and when that started. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But the more women step into the role of primary provider for their families, the harder it is for them also to be the primary provider inside the house, which creates this weird gender dynamic if you're in a male-female marriage, especially if you're married to a man who has more of a traditional understanding of marriage and gender roles and all of that stuff. Not good nor bad, just is. And then you're somebody like me whose entire sort of worldview of themselves revolves around being a professional woman. So I love being a mom. It is not natural to me. It is something I struggle with on a daily basis. I'd rather be working, to be completely honest with you, than going to play dates or taking my kids to the park to play with other kids and socialize with other moms. It's just not something that's in me. But if those same moms wanted to talk about business and create business plans and do like a group coaching session while the kids were playing on the playground equipment, that is my jam. So, and those women are out there, which is really cool. I've got an amazing circle of entrepreneurial women. There's about 8 of us. And we've been getting a lot closer over the years. And the really cool thing is a lot of us started our businesses within the 12 to 18 month time frame around each other. And every single one of us is kicking ass. And our families are happy, they're healthy, our businesses are strong, our social circles are small but tight. And ultimately, you're going to struggle with something, right? And my struggle just happens to be juggling motherhood with my professional identity.
Fair enough. I like that. What do you think has been, for you guys, has been the biggest win in the first year for you personally and also for the business?
Biggest win? I mean, every single day when a proposal is signed and I see money hit the bank, that's a win. So 365 days of wins, I suppose. But honestly, it is seeing that this idea I had and this belief I had in myself and the belief I had in my company before I even started it turn into reality. And see everything that I put down on paper and put into spreadsheets and see my values and my mission statement come to fruition and see the roofs that we're putting on and see the smiles on the homeowners' faces and see the almost 35 five-star reviews that we have on Google. That's really freaking cool. And I'm really proud of myself that I saw it. I saw it before we even formed the business, and I knew what it was capable of becoming. And the fact that we're here a year later is mind-boggling to me. And it is really exciting to see what the next 12 months are going to bring, because honestly, Now that we're so laser focused and dialed in what we're really good at, and our crews are top notch, we're getting accolades from our manufacturers. I had somebody on a job site the other day. I'm not going to name the manufacturer, but one of our sales reps from a very major roofing manufacturer got up on the roof and he said, I haven't seen a roof installed this well in years. And we're establishing our reputation as an extremely high quality installation company, roofing company, with affordable price points. So people are getting the best possible roof that they can for a price that doesn't necessarily match that value. Like, we're overperforming on value and our price is really strong. So that just makes me happy. And I'm hoping that if we stay lean and focused, I don't have to increase our prices. We can still be affordable and people get the highest quality roof that they possibly can. And the second thing that I'm sort of proud of and makes me happy every day is being able to say no. That every time I say no to something that's not right for us, it's like another 3 doors for things that are right for us open. And it's just sort of validating the power of boundaries, which is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I ran a small business, and that was one of the first things that I learned early on was you have to be able to say no and realize like, hey, this is not the right situation, and
Right.
this is not going to end well if we start here. So being able to say no, and obviously, especially early on, it takes a lot of willpower to do that because it's money, right? You think like, hey, I could do this job.
I was terrible at it the first
Yeah.
5 months. And then
Yeah,
I saw what saying yes to the wrong things did.
can do.
And
Yeah, absolutely. It's
yeah,
not worth it in the long run. So.
yeah.
So what? Let's talk quickly about like some of the things that you have done to find success so quickly, so early on. We talked about tech a little bit, and I know that you've been using our platform now to take payments and invoice and things like that. It's a new feature for us, and you've been utilizing that. And talk about how it's streamlining your operation, but also some of the tactics that you've used to be able to grow your reputation so quickly.
Sure. So I'll take that into 2 parts. First one, how we got to where we are so quickly, especially since we've done very little paid anything. I did just write a $5,000 check to sponsor this massive event in September for a local zoo. You probably know it, Pete, Turtleback Zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this adoption event for animals at Turtleback Zoo called Barktoberfest. And I'm a huge animal advocate. We just did a roof. We did it at cost. We're donating any profits from the job back to this animal shelter. We did that yesterday. So I'm all about animals. The reason I'm telling you this is to generate, we should hit about $3 million in revenue. Your traditional marketers in the industry are going to tell you that you have to spend anywhere between 4 and 10% of your gross revenue in order to generate that $3 million, right? So that's a lot of money that would go into marketing that I'm not spending. I'm able to reinvest that expenditure in different ways in terms of community involvement. So I'll do things like sponsor Barktoberfest at Turtleback Zoo. I'll do things like put a roof on somebody's house at cost if they're a military veteran. I'm reinvesting what would have been traditionally spent on things like Facebook ads and Google ads in ways where money makes a bigger impact on our community. And as a result, it impacts my business from a brand awareness perspective. And we hardly do any sort of outbound marketing. Everybody who knows us in the community that's on social sort of does our marketing for us. So whether that's in local Facebook groups, whether it's a mom Facebook group or a community Facebook page, it could be next door, it could be people at the grocery store. It's just like all these random people who know about us that see everything that we're doing, and they're espousing Maven, which is incredible. And some of it is because I built a reputation for my own personal brand, me as Amanda Veinott, not necessarily a roofing company owner, well before I started my own business. So that's probably piece of advice number 1. You as a business owner or as a sales professional need to build your own personal brand. Like you yourself, that Pete, I'm pointing to you on my screen, has to be well known in your local market. If you yourself are not well known, your business will struggle. So that is probably one of the key things to getting us where we are now very quickly is I'm not afraid to be the face of my business. And other people that I hear are struggling, they're not happy being the face of their business. They're not comfortable doing that. So there needs to be some self-work there about how can you build your confidence to be more visible in your business. Now, the second part of your question was, what did we do more on like the tactical side for the back end of our business that has helped us get here? Definitely adopting tech super early on was a huge part of it. The specific things that we have used over time, obviously the proposal tools, the CRM is now integrated into a lot of what we do. Every day you guys are making improvements on the CRM side, which is great. What that allows us to do is track our customer journey and duplicate ideal clients. So we're able to see where did that person come from. If they were a referral, we'll take notes in our CRM and track that referral source, which then allows us to look at other circles of influence or spheres of influence. A majority of our business comes from word of mouth referrals on Facebook. So I know that I need to continue to stay visible and do all the things I do on Facebook every single day in order to be top of mind. If I wasn't tracking that data and I didn't have the capability to do that, then it might not be something that I focus on. And then something that's been a huge game changer for us is definitely your invoicing and payments. I was the bottleneck in our company about 3 or 4 months ago, up until that point when it came to accounts receivable. Then what I did is I said, okay, Lori, that's my admin's name. I need to give you this responsibility. And that's when you guys launched invoicing and payments. So I have almost nothing to do now with invoicing and payments because Lori's sitting in Roofr all day long, right? She's handling phone calls. She's putting in the data into the CRM. She's ordering measurement reports when she knows it's a roof replacement estimate that we have to go on. So she does all of that on the front end. And then she sits there at the computer when we're doing production and she'll quickly put a change order together, send out an invoice for the change order. It's approved and they can pay it right then and there. So we don't even have to wait to process an invoice upon completion in order to get paid for those change orders, which is amazing. I used to not send out invoices for 2 or 3 weeks after job completion because I was so busy doing other things. Now my admin literally does it at that point where the plywood is getting put on the roof. We're getting a signed change order and we're getting paid for it. That's amazing. So being able to empower our people to use the technology that we're paying for is probably the number one tactical thing that we have been doing over the past year and getting much better at.
Yeah, it's some interesting points there. I think the one thing that hits me with what you said is so many times I think people think of the CRM as this database, right? And it's just a place where I'm going to be able to go back later and reference the information. So let's just make sure we're storing everything in there. But you guys are using it in a much smarter way to gather insights that allows you to hone your marketing and hone your targeting and your sales and things like that. So and I think that that's a very, very overlooked use case of the CRM, right? Yes, you're housing all your information there, but that information is super valuable, right? It gives you a lot of insight into what you can do to improve the business. Like you said earlier, it shows you where your bottlenecks are. It shows you where your pitfalls are and how you can easily fix those things. So very interesting. And also the first Roofer of the Month that we had on, Joe Andrews, talked a lot about something that you touched on, which was the transition kind of back to the old days, more or less, of this referral system, right? Where we had gotten away from people referring other people to us. And now we're kind of, after COVID, we're kind of going back to this like neighborhood field. And I might not be finding out from someone in the grocery store, but I might be finding out from someone on a Facebook group, but it's still the same idea, right? And what you guys have been able to do is by becoming this neighborhood roofer and being involved in the community and things like that, and people recognizing you as well as the business. You guys have been able to capitalize on that, and it's something that kind of mirrors what Joe said. Joe said that they've done a lot of investing in being that neighborhood guy, and it's helped them to build a business very quickly. And same thing, he's in a position now where he's about to double his revenue in his second year of business with almost $0 spent on marketing because of that same approach. So yeah, it's interesting because I do think it is interesting the way we're kind of like going back a bit to the way it used to be of like, hey, I need a roofer. Let me ask the people at the grocery store or wherever I go for bagels or whatever.
And I've seen this trend in other non-construction industries for a long time, because I actually run a local Facebook group here in Morris County, New Jersey for moms. And I've run it since 2017 when I was pregnant with my first daughter. And I created the group specifically because I was looking for any and all things relating to parenting locally. I'm not from Morris County. I'm from Middlesex County, which is just far enough away where it's inconvenient to travel 45 to 55 minutes to do things where you grew up. So when I moved here at that time, I was looking for friends. I was looking for pediatricians. I was looking for pediatric dentists. I was looking for daycare recommendations. So all of my needs really focused on parents and parenting and child rearing and motherhood. But that same exact group is the same group where you find your HVAC techs, your landscapers, your chimney specialists, your roofers, your painters, everything that a family needs to live and survive within their house. People are asking for recommendations. So my group that was solely focused on moms is now heavily a recommendation engine specifically for highly reputable, highly valued local businesses, which is just an incredible thing to sort of see that morph from back in 2017 when it was really family focused now to being all things family, home, just general life, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Middlesex, so I live down in Middlesex County and not far from you. And so where you grow up, actually right next to it. And we, same thing. We have a Facebook group that's for the town. We're a very small town here. And we have a Facebook group that's town specific and everybody's in there. But it's become this place to get your recommendations for, I need a roofer or I need someone to fix my driveway or whatever the case may be. That's the first place people are going to ask and be able to find those reputable contractors. So it's very similar to what you said. So one last question here for you, because we are getting close on time. I just want to ask, what is in store for Maven in the next year? Like, what is your goals for this year for Maven? Where are you guys looking to go with the business, and what are the things on the horizon, possibly maybe even a few years out for you guys?
So I was thinking about this as you were talking earlier when you were mentioning Joe. If I wasn't a mom and if I wasn't married, we probably would be a $5 or $6 million company this year. Because my tolerance for risk is really high, but I can't take the risks that would be necessary to get to that next level as fast as I want, because I have to temper those risks with my family's needs. So some people might look at me and say, oh, wow, she's doing $3 million in year 2, big deal. She used to sell $3.5 million on her own in 1 year. I also don't have a desire to become a 9-figure business ever, because I don't need that. I've said this since day one. I would rather be a $5 to $7 million business with a 15% true net profit than I would prefer to be a $10 to $20 million business with like a 4% net profit. Because the bigger you get and the faster you get big, the bigger your headaches and the bigger your problems are. And my goal in 2024 is to minimize my headaches, to get rid of everyone and anyone who causes those headaches, and only focus on the things that are easy. And I'm not saying that owning a business and growing a multi-million-dollar company is easy, but I want to focus on the things that make it easy. And that for us are those three categories: roofing, gutters, and decks. And once I master decks, like I have roofing and gutters, I can push play and walk away because my team handles everything. So to me, that will be successful. If you sit me down on April 16th of 2025 and say, Amanda, did you accomplish what you wanted to this year? And I'm able to go away for a month and our business doesn't implode, that to me is success. And you know what? If in 2025 we do $3 million, just like we do in 2024, I will still feel successful because I don't need to get any bigger because our personal needs aren't any bigger than that. Now, do I think we can go to $7, $8, $9 million in the next few years? Yeah. Do I want that? I don't know. We could probably max out our capacity with what we're doing right now up to about $4 million before we need to hire a second round of people and basically double our production. Right now, we could probably get to 4 million and still operate as lean and efficiently as we are.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a contractor say to me once, he was running a business that was making about $15 million a year. And he said, I was way happier as a business owner at 8 million than I am at 15. And he said,
Yeah.
I've seriously considered cutting it back to that. And so I can totally see. I think that especially for you, right, there's that work-life balance. And we had Jason Shumway, who was our roofer of the month last month, and he said something similar. He's like, hey, my needs are met. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I have no desire to really grow because I don't want the headaches and all the extra stuff that comes with it if I'm comfortable where I'm at. So I think that's some great advice that keeps coming up. I keep hearing it more and more. Yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody to own a $30-40 million roofing company for sure.
I think I'm capable of it, Pete, but it's not something that's in my 10-year plan. I would say after my kids are in college and we're still operating Maven, and let's just say it's a $10 million a year business at that point, I could probably very easily take on commercial work and do these like massive projects. But you know what? 10 years from now, if I'm making what I'm making and happy, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll be 45 years old. Hopefully me and Corey Combs and our families will be on the beach in Florida somewhere and enjoying each other's company.
Control, right?
Yeah. Maybe in Toronto talking about marketing at a Roofr Rise tour. But
there you go.
Yeah, life is good. I have no complaints. And you know what? I don't need to get to 10 million and more.
I think it's great advice. Well, thank you, Amanda, for coming on and for what you guys have going on there at Maven and giving us some insight into how you guys have found success and how you guys are managing the business. I really appreciate the time, and congrats on being Maze Roofr of the Month. And everybody stay tuned for what Amanda has going on, and catch us next time on the Roofr Report. Thank you, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. Check us out next time on the Roofr Podcast. But until then, be sure to like us, subscribe to us, and check out all our other episodes on YouTube and Spotify.